welcome back. My name is Juliana and I'm a recreation therapist with Life Therapeutic Solutions. Happy Thursday. If you've seen our videos before, we hope that you're enjoying them. If you're new to our videos, please continue to check the calendar and check in with us daily for videos and resources for activities and things to do from your own home. Today, we're going to be doing what I like to call Letter to My Younger Self. And we're going to age some paper to make it look like an old letter. And then we're going to do a little bit of writing and thinking about growing up and what advice we would give our younger self, things like that. It'll be a fun little activity, and I will show you what supplies you're going to need. I picked supplies that you should be able to find hopefully around your home or apartment. I'm going to give a couple substitution ideas in case you don't have all the essential items, but regardless, even if you just are able to kind of write with us and do a little bit of paper and pen, that'll be fun too. Okay, so I'm going to show you some of the supplies that you're going to need for this project, and this is again just kind of what we're going to be doing. So you can see the paper is nice and aged, and I'll show you how you can achieve this with what supplies. So first you're going to want some sort of pan or sheet pan or something with slight edges, even if you just kind of use some tin foil and roll up the sides, but your paper is going to get pretty wet and you don't want to make a mess, so I'm just going to use this old cookie sheet. You're definitely going to want to have some paper towels laying around, or a sort of towel to just lay your wet paper on and to use in case you have a spill. You're also going to want some sort of mug or mixing cup when you're going to mix up our ingredients here. And then you're going to want some paper for sure, and I'm just going to use standard printer paper. I have 2 sheets here just in case I make a mistake on my first one. I want to have another one there. And maybe you want to do 2 letters. Now you're going to need some sort of brush. I'm going to use a paintbrush today. If you don't have a paintbrush lying around, then some other options are maybe a makeup brush, or maybe even just kind of taking a rubber band and banding together some Q-tips, or anything that's going to be able to help you achieve. Worst case scenario, you can use a spoon, which we're going to need anyway, and then you can just kind of spread it around like that if you don't have a brush. You're going to need a marker, or a pen. I'm using a very inky pen. And then most importantly, the materials that we're using to age the paper. So the material that we're going to use is either coffee or tea. So to use mine, like I said, I did coffee, and so I just kind of found these little packets that I had in my cupboard. They're just instant coffee packets, so if you have something like that or some coffee grounds lying around, new or used, doesn't matter. If you don't have coffee, you can use tea. I have here just like some cinnamon apple, which smells really good, so I think that actually would be a nice touch for my paper, but I'm going to stick with the coffee for today. If you have tea, you can go ahead and use that instead. So why don't you go ahead and hit pause so that you can gather your supplies. Maybe make sure you have enough room on a table somewhere for you to kind of lay everything out and do it. Another thing you're going to need as you're preparing your supplies is some hot water. Does not have to be super hot. You don't have to use a microwave. Just leaving your water running until it gets pretty hot should be enough. And you don't want a ton, so you're not going to fill your mug up all the way. You're probably going to fill it up just about 1/4 of the way, because we're just doing 1 sheet and we really want a dark color if possible of either your tea or your coffee. So fill up about 1/4 of a way with some hot water, and then we'll start mixing everything together once you get all of your supplies ready. Alright. Okay, hopefully you had enough time to gather all of your supplies. We're going to go ahead and get started. If you can kind of see here, I did fill up my mug with some water, and that's going to be our first step. So you're either going to use your coffee or your tea. If you're using coffee, I would say 1 scoop is going to be plenty. These little packets that I'm using are a single serve, and I used just 1 the first time and it worked out pretty well. I would say I achieved the color that I was kind of going for. If you're going to use the tea, I would recommend using at least 2 bags. And you can always add another one if it's not as dark as you want it to be. So I'm just going to go ahead and open this up. If I can figure out why it's opening. Alright, that one doesn't want to open. Let's try a new one. Tear here. There we go. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead, dump that in here. And I'm just going to start using my spoon and I'm going to kind of mix it. Now, depending on what you're using, you might need to give it a few seconds just to kind of blend together. I'm going to try and show you. You can see here, this is about the color of my coffee. Alright, as that's steeping together, I'm going to go ahead and take my first sheet, put my spare aside. I'm going to use my tin. And I'm just going to put my paper down here like this. Okay. Once you think you're ready, I'll try maybe using all of the materials. I'm going to move my tea out of the way here. I'm going to start with my paintbrush. So, you're just going to take it and you want to cover the whole thing. You will see white spots as it starts to dry. So just get as much as you can and then you'll be able to tell what areas might need a little bit more. And you want to be careful. You don't want to push too hard depending on what type of utensil you're using because the paper does get pretty thin and you don't really want to rip it too much. So just kind of go nice and light. Really try and cover the whole thing. And if you're doing it and you don't think your color is dark enough, then I would say, you know, take a pause, maybe add another tea bag or some more coffee and mix it up, just so you can have the color that you want. Now when we're done with this front side, we are going to flip it over and do the back side. So make sure you really cover. And I've got some pockets of, so you can kind of see some spots of mine that I'm just trying to go over. Okay, so now I'm going to very carefully flip it over so I can do the back. Okay, let's try out some of our other, I'm going to try the makeup brush. Let's see how that works. Oh yeah, that's nice. Actually might even work a little bit better than the paintbrush. Okay, so same kind of thing, just nice and light. Again, it's really thin, so just take it nice and easy. Just make sure you get as much as you can covered. And you know what, why don't we try our Q-tips too? See how those work. So for those of you using Q-tips, see, yeah, that's kind of nice too. As long as you're careful, if you're using Q-tips, just try not to push too hard because it is a little bit harder than like the brush is. But it gets the job done. And maybe you're using the spoon and you're just kind of using a little bit at a time and just kind of smearing it around. Alright, we need to move my utensils aside. Okay, so now I'm going to just take some paper towel and I'm just going to pick this up very carefully so I don't rip it and lay it down. Ooh, nice color. Move the tray out of the way. You can kind of see against the white how nice it looks. And I'm just going to take one more piece and just kind of blot it. Not too much, just a little bit to kind of help it dry. Yeah, it's looking good. Alright, now for drying, I think I'm going to go ahead and use a blow dryer and just do it on high heat for a few minutes just to let it dry. For the sake of time, if you want, you can kind of pause the video and let yours dry and then just resume when it's ready. Or if you have a hair dryer, you can plug it in and do the same thing. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and use my hair dryer on high heat just for a few seconds, and you can kind of see as it starts to dry, the texture of the paper gets really neat. So. Okay, so if you can kind of see here, you can see how it kind of looks like it's wrinkled. I have a couple like fold marks in it. The front side definitely ended up being a little bit darker than the back side, but that's okay. And it's pretty dry. It looks really cool. I'm happy with how it turned out. And once you get yours dried, I'm going to switch views so that we can go over the next part of the activity. Okay, so now that we have our paper, you should have one blank piece of aged paper just like this. And so the next thing for us to do is just kind of figure out what we want to write. Now, if you're one of our older adults, whether you're in our program or not, welcome. And for you guys, we want to kind of think about what advice you would give to your younger self. As things right now are kind of up in the air, there's a lot of things that are unknown and we're having to kind of adapt. What time in your life does it remind you of? Maybe it was as you were graduating high school, or maybe it was the first time you moved away, or your first big job, when things were kind of a little unknown and challenging. What did you do? What advice would you give yourself at whatever age? So when I wrote my first one, you know, I was kind of thinking of not long ago, but I was kind of thinking of graduating high school and kind of moving out to Grand Rapids for the first time, and some advice that I gave myself that I would have loved to receive a letter at that age was just to remember that people will remember when you're kind to them, how you should try to attack every challenge with confidence and a smile, and to always kind of follow my heart are some great pieces of advice that I think my younger self would have appreciated. If you're joining us and you are still in those phases of life, middle school, high school, or younger, or a little bit older, what advice would you give to your older self? To remind your older self what it's like when you're younger. Maybe kind of mix it up a little bit. Or maybe you're a little bit older and you would rather do it that way for the next few years. However you want to do it. I want you to just think of that time in your life that you would love to give advice or would have loved to receive advice. And we're just going to kind of write. So why don't you take your pen or your marker? We're going to go ahead and kind of write. I wrote in cursive just to kind of keep with the theme of like the aged letter and things like that. But however you want to do it, if you want to draw pictures, if you want to add some different colors or include an old photo, whatever you want to do. So we're just going to go ahead and we're just going to write. It gets harder the second time around, trying to think of what other advice I would give myself. If you have some life advice, we'd love for you to share it with us. So if you want to drop a comment on our video or on our Facebook page and tell us kind of what advice you're giving yourself, or maybe what advice you would give the younger generation now, even if it's not for yourself. There's a lot going on right now, and we could all really use some words of wisdom to help us get through these times. We'd also really love to see your finished products if you're willing to share. You can take a picture and upload them or send them to, if you're working with a therapist and you want to send it directly to them to post, or post it on our Facebook. We'd really love to see how your letters turned out, and we're not quite finished yet. I'm going to go ahead and sign off my name. And then the final step. Now if you want to make it a little more aged, what you can do, next part's a little fun, is we're just going to crumple it up. Yep, and this is a great hand exercise. Crumple it up as much as you can. I got mine into a small little ball, and then I'm just going to unroll it very carefully because I don't want it to rip. If it does, that's okay though. And then I'm going to kind of maybe smooth it out a little bit. And you know what, it still looks, if you can see on mine, I kind of decided to rip off a corner, add some tears to it, really kind of age it, just for the fun of it, for the fun of the exercise. Interested to see what you guys will all do, whether you add some tears or rip off the corners, or maybe you want it to be nice and neat as if it was pressed in a book all this time. But we're really excited to see what you come up with, what advice you would share for your younger self or your older self, and what advice you can give to us as we're all going through this challenging time together. I want to thank you for watching. Please share our video or in our page with your friends and your family. Give us a like, and again, comment, share pictures. We really want to see what everyone's out there doing and the advice that you would share. tune in tomorrow for a whole new video and a new resource. Again, my name is Juliana. I'm with Life Therapeutic Solutions, and thank you again for watching.